Hi, everyone, and we are here on the Neil Haley Show on the Provision Brokerage Celebrity segment. I'm excited to welcome to the program my co-host, Eric Couch. Eric, how are you? How are you surviving? Now, remember, you were the one that was telling me you had no restrictions at all at times, and I was the one that was stuck in the restrictions. Now you've dealt with it.
And now we've kind of flip-flopped here.
It's kind of flip-flopped completely.
Yeah. So Dallas and Texas is under lockdown. But, it's still going well. People are, they're honoring the order. Everybody's got to wear a mask if you're out. I probably have one around here. I guess we could do the interview in a mask, but just for a little comic relief. But yeah, business is still going. People are still, getting out as needed. Nobody's being foolish for the most part. But at the same time, realizing that, hey, we've got families, we've got, mouths to feed. So people are figuring out how to work, and whether that's from home or over the phone, it's a new paradigm, but it's working, right? Just like this. I would love to be in person with you guys.
That'd be awesome.
But it's still exciting and fun to be able to have this conversation. So yeah.
All right. Cool. That's introduce our great guests for us today.
Oh man. So, there's really no introduction needed, but for anybody that has ever watched, Marvel and Thor, of course, there's the god of thunder, right? Well, today we have the thunder god, right? So today, famous drummer with a phenomenal story, and but we're going to talk to Rick Allen. He is the drummer for Def Leppard, and we're also talking to his bride, who they've got a lot that they're going to share with us today, Lauren Monroe. And we're excited to have you, and we're looking forward to just having a great chat.
Guys, thanks for stopping by. Really awesome to get you all here, especially. And I love the story, Eric, because the story of looking at a power couple, that's how I look at it, that are really transforming and making change. That's such an important thing, Eric, as you've talked about always in your marriage, for sure, is that importance of partnership, right, Eric?
Absolutely. So Catherine and I work together. My wife, we just celebrated 20 years of marriage, and went up to Yellowstone at the end of May for our 20th. It was amazing. And that's something we're really passionate about, because as you know, it's marriage isn't easy. There's actually a passage in the Bible that says, marriage will be tough. And I don't remember anybody reading that in our marriage vows section, that it's tough, but it's also been wonderful, right? So I'm excited to have you two on the call today. Unfortunately, Catherine couldn't join us because she's picking up our son, but this is going to be great.
All right, Eric, ask the first question for Rick, because I'm just so interested in learning the story, and then get Lauren's feedback on this story, because this story is just amazing.
Absolutely. Lauren, you have all the dirt, right? You can fill in all the gaps here. But Rick, tell us about how you got into drumming. Apparently your 15th birthday you had an audition. So I would love to hear the story of how you got into Def Leppard, and a little bit about that journey.
Cool. I'd been playing from about the age of 10. My best friend, John, he got a guitar for Christmas. So I went home and asked my parents if I could have a drum kit. And the answer was no, because we couldn't afford it. But then I kept pestering them. And about a week later, they said, okay, if you go for lessons. And so I ended up going for lessons with this guy, Kenny Slade, who used to play with Joe Cocker. And I did some jobs around the neighborhood, washing cars, trying to help out at home, and it was great. So probably about 6 months after I started lessons, I got my first drum kit, which was it wasn't the best drum kit, but it was fantastic at the time, and I loved the fact that I got this thing, and my parents were so supportive. And then, fast forward, I ended up playing with a few local bands, and then I was about to quit the business at the ripe old age of 14. And we saw an article in the local newspaper that said Leppard loses skins. So we called up the journalist, a guy called Keith Strong, and got in touch with Steve Clark and Joe Elliott. I met them a couple of days later, and we talked, and we realized that we'd probably been to all the same shows, probably stood next to each other at the same concerts. And they said, okay, come down and play. So I went down to their rehearsal room, an old spoon factory in Sheffield. And the original drummer came back. He wanted his job back. Another guy came, and I was there. And they asked me, if I wanted to go first. I said, no, I'm fine. So I ended up playing last. And I got a pretty good ear, so I was able to pick up on all the subtleties and the parts. Anyway, when I got up and played, I just saw big smiling faces in the room. And after that, they kept me behind, and they said, you've got the job. So the rest is history.
Lauren, growing up, were you a fan of Rick's? When did you first know Rick's music?
I had the first and second albums. I had Down Through the Night and High and Dry. So I knew the band, but then I kind of moved on to.
You got into disco music, right?
I know, AC/DC and Van Halen, and as well as disco and a lot of other things. So I kind of lost track of, the band. I wasn't a diehard fan or anything, but I obviously appreciated what he did. And then when his accident happened, I was, it really touched me deeply. His whole story. I didn't know him then. But yeah, no, I wasn't a groupie or a huge fan at the time. Sorry.
That's always what the wife says about someone else's, regardless of their success. Always have to keep them humble, right?
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah, we actually met each other through a mutual friend in, I think it was 2000, right?
Yeah.
We were playing in Colorado Springs, and Lauren, with her expertise, with the massage work and energy work, I really needed. I was in such a lot of pain at the time, so my friend said, "Oh, I know this girl, and she can really help you." And we met at the show the night of the Def Leppard show, and then we worked together. A couple of days later?
Yeah. And then we became friends, and life happens.
Exactly, especially when there's synergy for sure. Eric, next question for Rick.
So, and real quick, how long y'all been married? So you met in 2000.
Got married in 2003.
All right.
Was that 16 or 17 years now?
17 years this year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's your secret to success?
I think doing projects together, being in service together, really keeps us together. And we play a lot of music together. We do art together. We have our foundation, and I think that is something really special that you get to have with a spouse, and common interests and love for humanity. It keeps you humble and gives you a purpose in your marriage, I think, outside of just being a family, which is very important as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and it sounds like, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, most people, they know nothing about, the other person's work, or, whereas with myself and Lauren, I think because we spend time at home, doing things like this. Recently, we were rehearsing, doing a lot of rehearsals for this group called Palenque Arts for kids' music programs, and it was fantastic because we got to hang out at home and practice, and we got better. We got better and better as each day came in, and it's not very often you get to do things like that with your spouse,
Yeah. Having common interest is something that sometimes they talk about opposites attracting. It's really the common interests that really keep a marriage going, because if you don't have those common bonds that keep you together than there's separation a lot of times, Eric. And I'm sure you guys, Lauren and Rick, agree with me as well. If you don't have some commonality, then it's just like after a certain amount of time, where's that best friend type thing out there? And I think it's such an important thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And what I just see is seeing, as Lauren pointed out, right, seeing each other's strengths, and y'all feed off each other's strengths, and doing these projects together, and using that, and it's encouraging the other one. And that's probably the biggest thing that we've learned. So Catherine and I worked together for a couple years. She's the president of our company, and
of course,
and it didn't go so well. I'll be honest, it did not go so well. But then, took a few years off. My father lived with us and had Alzheimer's, and she was caregiver of him and our kids and running the home. And that was more than a full-time job. Regardless of W-2 or not, it's very full-time. And then she came back about 3 years ago and started working. And it's just, the key difference is just, recognizing each other's strengths and building that up rather than all the weaknesses, right? Because we all have both. And that's what I'm loving hearing with you guys, is just sharing those strengths and doing things together and finding the passions that you're both passionate about, like your charity. And I want to hear all about it. And just be able to do something. And you've got a project right now that there's an amazing picture behind, Lauren's head, that we're going to talk about that. But first, before we get into it, right? So, Rick, when, other than pouring sugar, when did you guys know this thing's going to work, right? When did you realize that, this is big?
Well, I joined the band in 1978, and we started off, doing small shows, but it got some traction in England, and then we started to get some traction in parts of Europe. But I don't think it was until we came to America in 1980, May 20th, 1980. Santa Monica Civic opening up for Pat Travers. The amazing thing for all of us was to be on stage and everybody in the audience knew our songs. And that was when we kind of went, wow, how could this be? They live all the way over across the Atlantic, and they know all our songs. So that was a huge boost for all of us, and that's when we realized that maybe we're onto something.
Yeah. So now you've got a wild story, right? You're the drummer, the Thunder God, and yet you're a drummer with one arm. That's not a common thing. So I'd love for you to just kind of take us through the story of what happened. But then also I'm interested in, the mental of, you had a fight. You don't just lose an arm and get back to being a world-class professional drummer without something, right?
No, it was very, very tough in the beginning. Just briefly, I lost it in a car accident, and actually the seatbelt came undone and actually took my arm off. I left through the sunroof of the car, landed in a field, and I remember staying conscious, and I think that's the thing that actually saved my life, because I didn't bleed out, and then I woke up in the hospital. The next thing I know, I woke up in the hospital a couple of weeks later, and to be honest, I didn't really know what had happened to me. And then when I realized what had happened to me, I just wanted to disappear. I didn't want to see anyone. I just wanted to, I just wanted to become really small. And I felt so self-conscious, and it was awful. But then some wonderful things started happening to me. I asked my brother to bring my stereo into the hospital room, and I started playing all the music that I grew up listening to. and I had this piece of foam at the bottom of the bed, and I realized I could play all the basic rhythms that I'd ever known, just using my feet. So yeah, shortly after that, a good friend of mine that has an electronics business, he came and saw what I was doing with my feet, and he said, I could build you some pedals. I could actually help you to play again. And we developed these pedals. I was supposed to be in hospital for months and months and months. I got out of hospital within a month. And the first thing I did was I went to his store where he had the pedals set up, played for about 5 minutes, and I was completely exhausted. But I think the thing that caught me was I got so much support from people around the world. I got letters, like thousands and thousands of letters. My family, the band were great. And I went from wanting to disappear to really finding the human spirit. I think that's what really catapulted me into wanting to succeed, and all the support I was getting from around me. And I think the other thing that helped me tremendously was I stopped comparing myself to others, and I stopped comparing myself to how I used to be. Mm-hmm. And I embraced how unique this was to be able to play drums, you know, with these foot pedals. And in a you know, briefly, that's kind of where it all started.
Story. And Lauren, from that is the idea for the foundation, a lot of ways, what he had to go through, Rick. So did you guys come up with this together, or the foundation? Explain a little bit of that story, Lauren.
We did come up with it together when we met. My background's in healing work and massage therapy and energy work and mindfulness practice, and I worked with people with various different experiences of trauma. And so when I met Rick, I met him as a healer in that way, and I was also a musician. So, and I was a drummer. I play percussion, djembe, and percussion instruments. So we started, I had him come to my classes. I was teaching at the Boulder College of Massage in Boulder at the time in Colorado. So I'd have him come in, and we would create various workshops around healing with the drums and healing with mindfulness practice. And we decided to just start doing it for other populations. So we worked with kids who had disabilities, kids that also lost limbs.
Oh my.
And we said, we need to do this. It's so effective. I mean, it doesn't matter what population it was, people connected immediately. And you didn't have to have language, which is nice. You know, it really, the drums bring people together so immediately that we decided to start a 501c3 so we could do this, and in a way that we would be able to have the community support it and get more people involved. And that was the start in 2001.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And Rick, when you heard the idea, you said, wow, I should have thought of this earlier. It's someone as great as Lauren that figured this one out for me, right? The foundation part of it.
No, I couldn't have done it on my own. You know, she definitely gave it legs and gave it you know, just we had a common goal, but I didn't really know how to do it on my own. And I think Lauren brought that to the table.
All right, Eric, next question.
And that's where the team comes in, right? And you know, everybody's had adversity to one point or another. And Lauren, I'm sure there's a reason that you got into, you know, focusing on healing and these areas, and I'm sure it's partially because you're just a great person and you love to help people, but there's a backstory behind that too, because we all have hurt, right? So when you bring that, and then Rick has his story of trauma, and the way that you two are helping people face adversity, because it's so easy to get beat down and just give up, regardless of whether it's due to a physical or mental or relational or emotional or whatever, right? So many people give up in life because somebody told them they couldn't do it, right? You lost an arm, you can't be a drummer anymore. And instead of going with that, you're like, watch me.
No, that's interesting you say that. I actually had a junior doctor come in, and I was obviously very vulnerable. And this junior doctor, he just said, you know, you're never going to wave again, let alone play the drums. And I just felt so defeated at the time. So anyway, when I became an outpatient, I saw the same junior doctor when I came into the hospital, and the first thing I did was and you know, he didn't know, but I was about to be the comeback kid in terms of being able to play drums again. So people's recovery is complex. Maybe in a twisted way, he was something to do with lighting a fire under him. I don't know whether that was his intention, but you know, you get all these positive comments. You know, you put something out there on the internet, or you get all these positive comments. There's always one person or two people with a big thumbs down. It's like, and you concentrate on those people. Yeah. So he stayed in my mind, and I think he was part of what lit a fire under me, and I found that human spirit and that passion, you know.
That's so tremendous. And that's the thing, when people tell you you can't, it fires me up to say, I'm going to do it. You told me I can't, you know, I could just see for how difficult a challenge you had. But for me, when people say, oh, you're not going to be able to do this, why are you doing this? Well, it drives me to do more. It drives me to do it. And when people, the doubters, the naysayers, are somebody that, I guess what, that just gives me more fuel for the fire to say, I'm going to do it. And I think it's so important, because if you don't have that passion, forget about it. You'll always have a doubt in your mind. You're not going to reach the level you need to reach. And that's your story, Rick, is just phenomenal. Now, Lauren, now you guys together with a project. So, you know, you talk about always working the foundation together, but music together. Is this the first time you've done this together, where you like are together in music type of thing with it coming out, working together with the foundation or working together as a couple? But now this EP, tell us about it.
Well, Rick and I did a record in 2008, and we released it. It was kind of a soft release. We didn't really put it out there very much, but it was a great experience. He produced it, and we did a wonderful tracking in our home studio. But this time, I'm working with the producer, Jim Scott, and Rick came in as a drummer to drum among other drummers that I was very fortunate to have on this record. And so this isn't the first time we've worked together at all. He's been a part of my musical experience since I met him. But my music journey started when I was really young, and I had several bands along the way before I met him. Although my focus has always been in the healing work primarily. It's great that we could get to do this together now.
Yeah, this is an awesome project, because it's not just about selling music, it's about helping others. So it relates the music and the foundation together. So tell us, people that purchase this, who it's helping.
Well, the Big Love single is out now, and you can pre-order the record, but it's coming out officially tomorrow, July 10th. So you'll be able to buy it. And the proceeds from the Big Love track is going through our resiliency program, but it will be helping various types of trauma communities. One is being Indigenous people who are suffering trauma and recovery. As well as our military. We work, our Project Resiliency is a branch of Raven Drum Foundation that we have. It's a program specific for veterans suffering with PTSD and trauma from combat. So that's where the funding is going to go. It's going to be funneled through those two areas.
And that's what I love, is the fact that it's helping other people in two different ways. And Rick, you and Lauren have added another component to the charity in a lot of ways, by helping other people too that have been injured and stuff. Like when you talk about combat veterans and stuff. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that real quick. Yeah.
Well, you know, my trauma wasn't combat related. but you know, as you know, you mentioned earlier, you know, we all hurt in one way or another, and you know, it could be an abusive relationship, a car accident, a sports injury, or it could be, you know, combat related. So the interesting thing is, when I first went to visit some of our wounded warriors in 2006, I realized they were speaking a very similar language to me, or, you know, the things that I'd experienced. You know, more sort of negative ways of sort of, you know, like self-medication and rage, and, you know, all these things that afflicted you know, some of our wounded warriors with PTSD, I'd also experienced. So it seemed like a good match, and I felt as though I really wanted to make a difference, you know, in their lives, and inspire them through all the gifts that I'd been given, you know, from playing drums with Def Leppard, and all the work that I do with Lauren, you know.
That's tremendous. And Eric's final question that he always asks is involving legacy. And Eric, go ahead and ask that question.
Yeah. So, you know, a big part of what this show is about is, you know, influencers, but then more so, how do you use that influence? And obviously you guys are using it incredibly to make an impact of those who need that encouragement, which we all do, but just with PTSD, with Wounded Warrior, you know, project, with all the others that your nonprofit helps. So my question is always kind of, you know, regarding your legacy, right? Whether that's in music, whether that's in marriage and life, could be any of the above, all of them. What would you like your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered for, or the impact that you have?
And I guess both of you can answer this.
Yeah.
Okay, Lauren, you go first.
I guess if I had any kind of legacy, I would be being a person who could lead with love, and someone who was brought people together to unify people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd want to be remembered for you know, bringing joy into people's lives, and sometimes it's something very simple, like you know, I'll see somebody out at the backstage door and just go out and talk to them, or take a photograph, or sign something, and, you know, it takes such a small effort on my part to make people really happy. So I think that's what I'd like. I'd like to be remembered as bringing joy into people's lives.
That's fantastic. And you're an inspiration. And I'm glad this story is coming out in a positive manner, especially with a lot of the negativity that's in the media right now. And that's why I love doing a show with Eric, and all of my different shows I do, when we highlight celebrities and their stories. This is just a tremendous story that I never knew about. I mean, I knew about, you know, the injury, but never what the backstory is, what's happened afterwards. And hopefully more and more people can learn this story. So Lauren, where's the best place we can find out about the foundation, the song, all that? Where can we go purchase it, all that? Where's
foundation, you can go to ravendrumfoundation.org or project-resiliency.org. Takes you to the same place. You'll learn about all the programs that we have going on, and the intention and the mission of the non-for-profit. You can go to lauramonroe.com. You'll see everything about me and what's going on. I would love it if you went to my Laura Monroe music on YouTube to check out the Big Love video, which has really been wonderful to create that and to share it. And yeah, music's available on all digital platforms as of tomorrow, July 10th.
And Rick, are any other projects you're up to right now, especially during COVID time? Or
who, me?
Yeah, you.
Just practicing. I've just started painting again, so you know, there's always stuff to do at home. There's always loose ends, you know. So, and I was just telling somebody the other day, it's the first break that Def Leppard have had since 2010. So, you know, in a strange way, it was kind of welcome, you know, just to be able to put the brakes on.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for stopping by, taking the time. Tremendous stories, and keep up the great work of helping so many people, because that's what you're doing through this platform, and keep it up.
Cool, man. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
You're listening to
Appreciate
Neil Haley
your
Show,
time.
watching Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.